Meds- Medicine is not only about healing wounds and illnesses, it's about uplifting the whole system of health care and welfare of our people. My name is Essop Jassat. I was inspired to become a medical doctor by people in the community who had contributed for the welfare, the health and the upkeep of my people. The most person who inspired me was Dr. Yusuf Dadu, who was the president of the Transvaal Indian Congress and also was a very prominent member of the Communist Party of South Africa. He, together with other people who did medical work, inspired me to take up medicine as a career. When I qualified from matric, I immediately applied to the University of Witwatersrand to do medicine. There was a quota system in those days. From approximately 400 students, they would take 15 or 20 black students. Black students consisted of Indian, African, Chinese and colored students. And I was very lucky to be selected to do first year medicine at the University of the Witwatersrand in 1951. When I started at the University of Witwatersrand, things were not as pleasant as I expected. There was total segregation. We were not allowed to use the swimming bath. We were not allowed to use the sporting facilities. And there was segregation at social gatherings. And we, in the breaks, would sit on the steps of the university in groups of blacks. Very little intermingling took place with the white students of those days. Some of our friends who lived outside of Johannesburg and who were of the Indian origin had difficulty in traveling from as far away as Pretoria every morning to get to university. There was this residence for African students only, and they would not allow us to stay at that African residence. We felt that the essential matter was that we should continue with our studies in spite of the discrimination that persisted in those days. I must confess that there was quite a lot of sympathy from the lecturers and the fellow students. Though we do not mix socially, they did not deny any rights to sit with them in the lecture halls. I was inspired by Advocate Ismail Mohammed, who was a student at the time, and also by Advocate Bezos. And I noticed that things were not quite started. I had to go to the university. I had to travel in the tram and sit in a separate section. If I traveled to the medical school in the train, there was a special room or class for black travelers, and I felt that there was some unjust system that was at stake. And at medical school, I became involved in the Students' Liberal Association, which was trying to help us cope with the dilemma of the apartheid system. And so I became active in the struggle of the people of my country. Following the riots in Natal in 1947, I was asked, there was a plea for the Transvaal Indian Congress for us to come and address leaflets asking for donations for those victims who had suffered in the riots. But after a time, it became too much, so I roped in other colleagues at school, such as my brother Abdullah, Mauzi Mullah, and Farid Adam, and we then joined the Transvaal Indian Congress. Going into the office, we met people like Dr. Yusuf Dadu, then we met Maulvi Kachalia, we met his brother Essop Kachalia, and we met a very staunch activist, Ahmad Kasrada, and we were then asked to join the Transvaal Indian Congress, Youth Congress, whose task was to do the day-to-day work of the Congress, such as putting up leaflets, doing slogans, and carrying out menial tasks. Going to the Congress offices in Market Street, I came into contact with my African colleagues, friends of the African National Congress, and for the first time I came into contact with Walter Sisulu, Duma Nokwe, and Mandela, and that inspired me to undertake an understanding of the apartheid system, and this resulted in me becoming very active, and I was promoted to the senior Transvaal Indian Congress. When I started qualified, I started to practice in Germiston and in Fordsburg, and also took a part-time job at Baragwanath, and I was given a casualty officer post there, and during that time I was then banned from participating in politics for 5 years, and I had to report every Monday to the prison, to Marshall Square. On one morning, on a Monday, I had a case of heart attack, and I failed to report to the police that morning, and for that I was charged and was sentenced to 10 days imprisonment at the fort. My defense was taken up by Advocate George Bezos. In prison, I mixed with the ordinary prisoners first day, but then they thought that I was a bad influence and I was put into an isolation cell. These isolation cells at the fort here were those which people who were waiting death sentence were kept in, and I was for 14 days put in those cells. I was in that few days, because of the isolation, I lost something like 10 kilograms of weight. When I was released, I returned to my practice, and of course the banning order continued, which prevented me from leaving the suburb of or the town of Johannesburg. There was security on my movement frequently. I would have patients coming in to my rooms quite late in the evening, and what would happen is that the police would come in and ask why. They would come into my surgery to find out why they were present and not at that time of the day. When I got married in 1983, police attended my wedding at the mosque in Kirk Street, and they also attended the reception which was held at the Planet Hotel in Fortsburg. Fortunately, my friends did a function for me at a private hall in Friederdorf at night, where those who could not be present at the wedding were invited, and met my wife and myself that day. With the advent of the new system, I was nominated to stand for Parliament in the Fortsburg Newtown area, and I was elected to the first Parliament on which I served for 10 years. In Parliament, I was also appointed by President Mandela to the Integrity Committee, and on which I served, and I had the fortune to be on the Health and Welfare Committee. On the Health was Mantu Shabalala, followed by Dr. Zuba, and then on the Welfare Committee I played a very pivotal role while my stay in Parliament. In 2013, I was awarded the Order of Letuli in Silver by President Zuma for my participation in the struggle against apartheid. Medicine is not only about healing wounds and illnesses, it's about uplifting the whole system of health care and welfare of our people. One must think of it as a service to the people of this country. It must not be seen as one of gathering wealth and getting lovely cars and homes. It must be seen as a dedication to humanity, and that is what I appeal to the young people who are qualified now to serve our wonderful people in this land.